Welcome to our kitchen. We're going to talk about how to make bone broth today from start to finish. And by start, I mean from the chickens in the backyard. Recently, we just finished butchering 22 of our meat chickens, and we don't want to waste any of it. So the carcasses, we'll call it, go into bone broth. Now you can make bone broth from the bones from rotisserie chicken, from chicken wings, chicken thighs, any bones. You can also do it with beef bones and pork bones, but we're going to be talking about chicken bones. We raise Cornish Cross meat birds. We keep them out in the yard and the chicken tractors and the coop. We raise them up and we butcher them. I'll have some footage from when we've butchered the chickens. When we get done, we quarter them up into thighs, into breasts, into wings, and we put them in the freezer that way. You could certainly do your Cornish Cross and whole chickens, but we just like to quarter them up. So when we do that, I'm left with a chicken carcass, the chicken bones. This is what I'm left with. You can see the neck. We keep the neck on. And all of the valuable pieces of meat is butchered off and put into freezer bags. And I'll have some footage of that too, but this is just the bones that are left over. So instead of throwing them out, we're gonna make some bone broth out of them. Here's just a quick little look at how we butcher up the chicken. He's gonna butcher the thighs and the legs. We like to keep the skin on the thighs and the legs and the wing portions. So here he's just finding the joint to separate the leg from the thigh. Now here we don't like the skin on the breast, so he's going to take the skin off the breast portion. And then he's going to cut around that breastbone to get 2 of the breast out on each side. You can really just feel around that bone with the knife, and the breast comes right out. And then it's on to the wings. And this is what we're left with. Minimal waste. Okay, back to the broth. There are many different ways you can make bone broth. There's thousands of different recipes out there. How I like to do it is as simply as I can. So what I like to do most of the time is save any kitchen scraps, like scraps from onions, garlic, carrots, whatever, spinach or kale or whatever. And I'll put it in the freezer in a container. And when I'm ready to do broth, I will just dump it in with the chicken bones. So today I have fresh onions picked from the garden, and I'll just throw them in with the chicken bones into the crock pot. That's how I like to do it. Like I said, there's so many different ways to make broth. When I get ready to make it, I'll put the bones in the crock pot, the vegetables in the crock pot, and I'm just gonna fill it up with filtered water to the top. Don't wanna overflow it. Then I'll just do just a dash of apple cider vinegar. And you don't have to do that, but I like to. You can add any herbs you like, just whatever you have on hand, really makes a good broth. I cook the broth on low for 24 to 48 hours. I'll be honest with you, sometimes I forget about it and I don't want to fool with it. I'll let it cook some more hours until I'm ready to turn it off and let it cool, and then we'll go to the next step. I should also mention that I do roast the bones before I put them into the crock pot. So I have 3 set of bones that I am going to start into broth next. This is actually going in next. This is the broth that has been cooking for 24 to 48 hours, probably closer to 48 hours. So now I'm gonna strain it and can it. After the broth is done cooking, I'm gonna strain it through just a metal strainer into a metal bowl. It's still pretty warm, so just be careful. I just use a ladle and just drip it out. So here I'm just showing you how I fill the water. I've got the 3 chicken carcasses in there and my onions, and I'm just gonna fill it up with water. And then when I'm done with that, I'm just gonna do a dash of the apple cider vinegar. Now this will cook, and let's move on to the broth I strained earlier. Now we're back to what we do after we've strained the broth. So first, clean some jars. Then fill your pressure canner with the jars, and we're gonna heat the jars. We're gonna have all of our material ready to go. I've got my lids and my bands and my broth ready to go. So what we're gonna do is get a hot jar out of our canner and dump the excess water out. We're gonna use our funnel, and we're gonna dip the still pretty hot liquid into the jars. Once the jar is full, we're gonna wipe the rim. We're gonna put on the lid and screw on the band. Don't do it too tightly, just fingertip tight. And then we're gonna put it back into the canner. And you're gonna repeat until all your broth's used up. So I've filled up 3 jars here. We're gonna put on the canner lid. Don't forget to do your safety checks on your pressure canner. You'll want the steam to escape from the top, and then we're gonna put our weight on. I've done 10 pounds weight. We time it for 25 minutes, and then we're all done. Wait until the steam releases naturally. Do not prematurely open that lid, or you'll have broth all over the ceiling. Ask me how I know. You're going to want to let the jars cool for a while until you store them. And there you have it, your homemade canned bone broth to use in soups, rice, beans, whatever you like to use broth in, you can use this.